use test scores as a rough guide to choosing colleges. But if you have a student who's a B+ student in high school, well, they're probably not going to get into the most selective school anyway, unless they're an athlete but they should be at a place where they can excel. They shouldn't necessarily be at a place where they're still, remember I showed you there's that huge stratification and selectivity. So if you are a student who's at the sort of 70 percentile level, trying to go to a school that's at the 90 percentile level may be not a good idea. But neither is trying to go to a school that's at the 20 percentile level, because you won't, as I said, you're not going to, how much I as a professor can teach depends both on my ability, but also on what the students are willing to do. And students who are not willing to work are not going to learn as much. And if none of your classmates are willing to work that hard, you're not going to learn very much. So, on the other hand, if everyone is better prepared than you, that can be a really hard thing. So I think matching the school to the students is much more of an issue here than it is in India, for example. And that's the main point. Okay. Are there other questions?
What is the teachers' college?
Okay, so the teachers' colleges were originally set up as schools to train teachers. And many of the state college schools are exactly that. So Montclair State, Trenton State, or TCNJ, Rowan University, they all have very strong education programs. So you can go to that school, come out with a degree in education, and do pretty well in the job market. A lot of the best teachers in West Windsor Plainsboro are TCNJ graduates, or others. But that's a big part of their mission, is preparing teachers. Now, a lot of them have branched out vocationally, but that's still much more their core. So their core was to prepare teachers, not to do research.
I have one question.
Mm-hmm.
The admission to the top schools, like Princeton, Harvard, Yale,
Mm-hmm.
they call it as like most of the admissions come from the feeder schools.
Right. A lot of admissions come from what they call feeder schools. Now, I know Princeton is trying to reach out beyond the traditional feeder schools. That's what the SAT is for, and I may talk about that a little bit. Part of it is that if you know that you take a student from the top 10% of the school and they will do well, remember, I'm going to give you $80,000. I'm going to invest $80,000 in you, or $250,000, somewhere. I'm going to invest a large amount of money in your education as the school. If you come from a certain school, I have a pretty good idea that that's a good investment. So that's part of it, which is why, that's part of it. Other questions? Okay, so Molly's going to take.
Just to introduce myself, I guess everyone here knows me. Sort of along the lines of Alan saying, why are we standing up here and doing this? I got my bachelor's degree at Princeton University, and something I would say is that they have really nice young Indian men there. So girls, I got my PhD at the University of Massachusetts. Amherst does along the same. I have taught linguistics and English at the university level. I have worked for ETS, those really nasty people that do the SAT test that you'll have to take. And right now I'm working at the University of Maryland at something called the Center for Advanced Study of Language. So, when you do the college application process, the sort of end result of all that work you put in during high school is your college application. So how you get into college is very much the question of what does your application look like. So what's going to show up on that application is a number of things. The courses you took in high school. It doesn't go back to what you did in 5th grade, but the courses you took in high school. The grades you got. in high school. Test scores on standardized tests. Recommendations from a teacher and your guidance counselor. The special things that you've done, if you've won prizes, if you've done special things, that will also show up on your application. Your extracurricular activities. And what they're doing by asking you for all of these and for an essay, a personal essay, is getting a sense of you. Who are you? Not just things like, what are your grades, but who are you? So let's take these one at a time. The courses you've taken. Not all courses are equal. Right? You have to take a certain number of courses to fill your schedule. But they're not all the same. They're not all going to do the same job getting you to where you want to go. So one thing to keep in mind is, do you have a particular interest? Or do you have a particular college or kind of college in your mind that you want to get into? Well, if you do, make sure you know the requirements of that college or program and make sure you cover them. Don't just say, well, I don't really like math, so I won't take math, but I don't need it for that economics degree I wanted. Another thing is, this is the time to stay broad. Don't say, well, I don't like studying a foreign language, so I won't. That's not going to look very good in your college application. Stay as broad as you can. So you'll be taking science, taking math, taking humanities. Keep up with your foreign language. Even though you may want to be an engineer, you should still be taking your English courses and your history and your language. Because high school is the time to cover all your bases. If you look too narrow, you're not going to look very good. Now, take those courses at as high level as you can. This is not saying kill yourself over it, but as high a level as you feel you can manage. So what I mean by level of courses? Well, there are 3 basic levels of courses. One is just a regular course. Now these are going to count towards your graduation, they'll count for your college preparation, but they don't make you look special in any way. They don't make you look smart, they just get the job done. And sometimes you don't have a choice. Like in Gita school, they don't have an honors for the music courses. Okay, so you just take the regular music class, that's okay. But if you have the choice between regular and honors, if you feel you can handle it, this is not a kill yourself over it situation, but if you feel you can handle it, definitely go for the honors, because it shows that you are an able student. Then there's APs, the Advanced Placement. Some schools have what's called the IB program, International Baccalaureate. Now these courses not only show that you're a very strong student, but if you complete them, take the exam at the end of the year, and then place high enough on that exam, you may get college credit for that. And so some people with enough AP classes get through a 4-year bachelor's in 3 years. It saves the parents a lot of money. It's not always the best way to get a good, well-rounded education, but it can be very useful financially, as well as proving to the college that you really know your subject. Okay, a couple of warnings here. Parents, you want your children to succeed. So you say, you should take the AP Calculus. And your child says, I don't like calculus. I've never liked math. Please don't make me take it. In the long run, you may not be doing them any favors. What you will be teaching them, by forcing them into a class where they feel that they're not doing very well, you will make them lose self-confidence in the long run. They will learn to hate that subject, and you're not doing anybody any favors. On the other hand, students, you want that easy A, don't you? You don't have to work hard, right? your college application. The other thing is, sometimes some of us, especially young ladies, we underestimate ourselves. We say, oh, I'm not really very smart, not really very good. So-and-so, I can think of someone who's better than me in this subject, so I must be terrible at it. How's that for logic? But that's the way we think. And so be careful that you're not underestimating your abilities and shooting too low. So there's a balance here. Okay. So the grades you're going to get in those courses. It's an important factor in college admissions. Yes. But it's not a reason to take all easy courses. If you take all easy courses, then I'll have a 4.0 average, right? And then I'll get into a good college, right? Well, remember what I said about the level of the courses. If you take an honors class or an AP or an IB class, this is what, it gives what we call a weight to the GPA. That means you get extra. At least when they ask for a weighted GPA. You get extra points for taking this. So an A in one of these classes is actually more than a 4.0. And so if you only take easy courses, the highest you can possibly get is a 4.0. But if you take honors classes, you can get above a 4. So thinking just in terms of how do I get the A is not always the best guidance for taking the classes. On the other hand, you want to do well, you want to work hard. This is not a reason to despair or ruin your life. Okay? You got a B on your report card. Oh dear. It's not the end of the world. Often we think as young people that it is the end of the world. Our parents want us to bring home a straight A report card and, oh no, what have we done? Maybe I can lose the report card on the way home and my mom will never know. Nowadays, of course, they've switched to online systems and your mom will know. Really, it's not a reason to despair. It's a reason to work hard and be motivated. It's not a reason to despair. Okay, so you're taking a class and you're worried about your grade in that class. Am I going to get through it? Am I going to pass the final exam? Just a few things to keep in mind here. Now, one is don't be afraid to ask questions. Often it's like, I don't understand this, but if I ask a question, then the whole class will know that I don't understand it, so I won't. Well, then you won't understand. People who ask questions get answers. And people who get answers succeed. Also, who are you hanging out with? Are you hanging out with classmates who seem to get it? You know, classmates are often really good at explaining things. You say, well, you know, what answer did you get for number 2? I think maybe I did something wrong with my math here, because I'm not, you know, I got something negative at the end of the equation, and I don't think this was supposed to be negative. And your classmate will say, well, here, I did it this way. And you go, oh, okay. And you'll learn something. So your classmates are also a good reference. Tutoring is not a sign of shame. Tutoring can be the appropriate solution. If you need it, get the help you need. Keep up with your assignments. Don't fall behind. And here's my favorite advice to everybody is read. See the little book going into the person's brain there? All that information in the book goes into your head. Reading is one of the best ways of becoming an informed person, and being an informed person will do wonders for your education and your grades. Even if what you're reading, you don't have to be reading, you know, really deep intellectual stuff all the time. Just plain reading is good for your academic performance. Okay, tests. Here's where everybody gets scared out of their wits. They're scary things. Usually you take the SAT. There is also something called the ACT, which is more often taken by Midwestern students. Now, the point of the SAT is not to give you a really rough morning. And it's not to prove that wealthy students are smarter or anything like that. Things you might have heard. The whole point of the SAT goes back to this question about the feeder schools.